The silence that broke the room. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a room full of voices? Everyone talking over each other, trying to prove, trying to win. And yet, the one person who said nothing held the entire room. They didn't raise their voice. They didn't interrupt. They didn't even flinch. But somehow, everyone leaned toward them, waited for a reaction, felt the weight of their silence. That is not coincidence. It's pressure, built by stillness, engineered by absence. Real power isn't loud. It's the tension you create. By holding back, you see, we've been conditioned to equate power with presence, with dominance, with action. But that's the beginner's path. The true tactician knows this. Stillness bends more minds than noise ever will. Because silence, done right, isn't passive. It's strategic. It's psychological. It's war without declaring it. It doesn't chase. It doesn't argue. It doesn't explain. It just exists and lets them feel the imbalance. In this video, we'll break down how to use that, how to create pressure without sound, presence without movement, and dominance without reaction. Because once you master this, you'll walk into any room and everyone will shift. Not because you said something, but because you didn't have to. Let's begin. They move too much. They talk too fast. They laugh before the room does. Why? Because they're leaking energy, and they don't know it. Watch closely. They fidget, adjust their watch, scratch their neck, shift in their seat. Each motion, a signal of uncertainty. Now look at the one who doesn't move, doesn't react, doesn't blink. He's not ignoring you. He's absorbing the room. Stillness isn't passive. It's pressure, concentrated. In every high-stakes room, people listen to the loudest, but they watch the stillest. He doesn't try to win attention, because he already has gravity. You speak. He doesn't respond. You keep speaking, hoping for a flicker. It never comes. That's dominance. Without a single word. Silence becomes the loudest frequency when it's delivered with presence. Let's bring it down to the everyday. At work, someone pitches an idea. Everyone jumps in, but one person stays quiet. Arms relaxed, eyes steady, breathing slow. And when they finally speak, the room goes silent. Because everyone felt their stillness first. That's not charisma. That's control. When you don't flinch, they begin to question their own position. Stillness shifts attention. It forces people to fill the gap you leave. They try harder, talk more, explain themselves. Because they need your signal and you've made it rare. Stillness makes you unpredictable, unreadable, unreachable. They chase your reaction, but you're too anchored to give them one. This isn't about freezing. It's about control. Every move must have weight. Every pause must feel intentional. Raise an eyebrow. It lands like a sentence. Shift your body slightly. They reinterpret the room. Because you've trained them, your stillness means something. That is real influence. Not by volume, but by vacuum. So next time you enter a room, don't lead with energy. Lead with stillness. Hold. Anchor. Observe. And watch how they start moving around you. Power isn't always heard. Sometimes it's felt. And it begins with stillness. Let me ask you something. If no one reacts to you, would you still try to prove yourself? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't authentic. They're performing. They say things, do things, just to be seen. They're not speaking to be understood. They're speaking to be validated. And validation is their fuel. Think about it. Why do people raise their voices in a room? Why do they name drop? Why do they over-explain? They're not talking to you. They're talking for your reaction. They're waiting for the nod, the smile, the spark in your eye that says, "You see me." But when you don't give them that, when you stay still, calm, neutral, grounded, something strange happens. They lose their rhythm. Their sentences tangle. Their confidence cracks. Because you're not confirming their identity, you've removed the mirror. And when there's no mirror, they no longer know who they're supposed to be. This is the psychology of presence. You don't have to confront anyone. You don't even need to speak. You just stop feeding the performance. No smile. No laugh. No emotional payoff. And they start to shrink. It's not cruelty. It's clarity. You're saying, "I see you, but I don't reward illusion." This technique is used everywhere, from high-stakes negotiations to subtle relationship dynamics. In a relationship, someone exaggerates a story, waits for your reaction. You just sip your drink, look at them, say nothing. They either correct themselves or keep talking, but it lands flat. In business, someone pitches a rushed idea, looking for applause, but your face stays unreadable. Suddenly, they start second-guessing. They refine. They retract. Because your stillness created pressure. Remember, people act bold only when they believe the room will clap. Remove the applause, and the act collapses. So next time someone tries to perform in front of you, don't attack. Don't resist. Just observe in silence. Because when the stage goes dark, the actor forgets their lines. And that is when the real self shows up. Stillness isn't absence. It's pressure. Concentrated, controlled, and deliberate. You're not doing nothing. You're doing exactly what makes others react the most. You're withholding. See, people don't panic when you speak. They panic when you don't. Because silence is ambiguity. And ambiguity forces projection. Suddenly, they're no longer reacting to you, they're reacting to what they think you're thinking. And that's where the real control begins. Let's break it down. When you stay still, completely unshaken, you create an emotional vacuum, a space that demands to be filled. And here's the paradox. The more someone needs validation, the more that vacuum pulls at them. They lean in, talk more, repeat themselves, raise their voice, add layers. They didn't need to say just to get a flicker of response. You're just there, watching, breathing, unmoved. That stillness becomes unbearable to them. It's like standing on a stage, with no audience reaction, no applause, no booing, just stillness. And in that stillness, they start to unravel. Let me give you a simple example. Two people arguing. One is loud, emotional, escalating. The other silent, neutral face, steady eyes, doesn't interrupt. After a few minutes, the loud one starts adjusting their tone, starts second-guessing, even apologizing, even when they were winning. Why? Because the emotional vacuum made them uncertain of their frame. They were looking for resistance, but your stillness gave them none. And without something to push against, they collapse inward. Here's a relationship version. You get a message. It's passive-aggressive. It's manipulative. It's bait. But you don't reply. Not in 1 minute. Not in 10. Not at all. Hours pass. Then comes the flood. I didn't mean it that way. I just felt weird today. Why aren't you answering? That's not communication. That's panic. Panic caused by the vacuum you left. They're not clarifying for you. They're grasping to restore their own sense of control. This is where most people fail. They think dominance is about speaking last, about winning debates. But the most powerful people, they win the moment. By letting others defeat themselves, stillness does not invite battle. It invites collapse. You don't confront. You don't demand. You don't flinch. You just hold the vacuum open long enough for them to fall into it. And once they do, the frame is yours. Stillness isn't about escaping. It's about containing the room, containing the energy, containing them. Here's where most people get it wrong. They think silence equals fear. They see someone quiet and assume weakness. But true stillness isn't a retreat. It's a calculated act of control. There's a difference between freezing and holding. Freezing is reactive. Stillness is intentional. When you freeze, you're overwhelmed. When you stay calm, you're absorbing everything, without letting anything distort your frame. That's the shift. You're not avoiding them. You're absorbing them, like a black hole. No movement, no reaction, but pulling everything in. Let's go deeper. When someone yells, most people respond with tension. Their voice rises too. The energy escalates. They mirror. But when you don't respond, not even with a flinch, it creates psychological dissonance. They expect resistance, but get containment. And that containment feels like pressure because it doesn't release. Imagine this. A team makes a huge mistake. They expect a lecture. They brace for it. But the leader walks in, doesn't raise his voice, doesn't pace. He just sits down, looks at everyone, quiet, still. And suddenly everyone in the room starts apologizing to silence. Why? Because the stillness becomes a mirror. And no one wants to see their own reflection when they know they failed. This is the essence of strategic containment. You don't explode. You don't correct. You just contain. Stillness becomes a container for their energy. And when their energy can't land on you, it turns on them. That's the difference between emotional emptiness and emotional dominance. One is numb. The other is calibrated. Calm isn't soft. It's sharp. It's calculated. And when used with precision, it's deadly. Power doesn't always move. Sometimes it just waits, while others unravel themselves. So, the next time you feel provoked, don't push back. Just hold. Let them bounce off your silence. Let them hear their own noise. And watch who stays centered when the room starts shaking. Why do we always feel the urge to explain ourselves, to clarify, to be seen, to be understood? Here's the truth. No one wants to hear. The need to be understood is a form of emotional begging. Because when you need others to get you, you're not in control. You're asking for validation. And power never asks. Let's break it down. When someone explains too much, it's not because they're clear. It's because they're scared. Scared of being misjudged. Scared of being seen the wrong way. Scared of losing their place in the group. So they talk. And talk. And talk. But every extra word bleeds power. Because power doesn't explain. It positions. Look at the difference. Person A. I just want to make sure you know I didn't mean it that way. I hope you didn't take it the wrong way. That's not what I was trying to say. Person B. Pauses. Meets the gaze. And says nothing. Guess who holds the frame the more they talk? The more they reveal, the more you don't react, the more they spiral. And here's where it gets deeper. When you stay silent, you force them to interpret, to guess, to adjust. And when people don't know what you think, they fill the silence with their own insecurity. Now, you control the story. Without saying a single word, let's apply it. Next time someone challenges you, don't defend. Don't explain. Just look at them. Let the moment stretch. Let the weight settle. You'll see it. Their energy will start shifting. They'll search your face. They'll question their own stance. Because you didn't fight the narrative. You simply refuse to feed it. That's frame dominance. You create uncertainty. They try to close the loop, but you leave it open. And that loop will haunt them. Every time you sit in stillness, they become unstable. Because the ground isn't moving, and they don't know what's underneath it. Remember this, the less you explain, the more powerful your presence becomes. Because clarity isn't given, it's earned. And if they didn't earn it, they don't get it. Simple. Think about the last meeting you were in. The loudest voice. You forgot it by the time you got home. But the one person who barely spoke, somehow they're the one you're still thinking about. Why? Because silence lingers. It doesn't leave with the crowd. It stays, echoing, stretching, until your own mind starts trying to fill in the blanks. You see, when someone says too much, your brain closes the file. Done. I got it. But when someone says nothing, the story remains open. Unresolved. Unsettling. This isn't just observation. It's neuroscience. Psychologists call it the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains are wired to fixate on unfinished business, unclosed loops, moments that should have concluded, but didn't. So when you withdraw your words, you weaponize attention. You create the kind of silence people can't stop hearing. It's louder than noise. Let's anchor this in reality. At a dinner, one person dominates the conversation. Another sits still, calm, observing. When everyone leaves, guess who they gossip about? Not the talker, but the quiet one. Did you notice how calm she was? I wonder what he was really thinking. I couldn't read him at all. That's presence. That's psychological weight. You never need to raise your voice when your absence is louder than their performance. Let's flip the common belief. People think stillness equals invisibility. Wrong. Stillness is not fading. It's not vanishing. Stillness is becoming the ghost that follows them home. It walks with them, in their doubts, in their dreams, in the awkward moments they replay later, wishing they had read you better. You didn't say a word, but they heard you anyway. In their own voice, in their own fear, in their own obsession. And that is the power of controlled silence. When you speak, you give them answers. When you pause, you give them questions. Questions that never go away. The most silent ones are the most remembered, because they left something open, and the mind hates unfinished puzzles. Be that puzzle, not the explanation. Let's bring it full circle. You don't need to argue. You don't need to convince. You don't even need to be loud. You just need to stay. Still. Stillness is not surrender. It's structure. It's pressure, precisely applied. While others are flinching, explaining, overperforming, you remain centered, grounded, and in that silence, they start unraveling. Because stillness strips away illusion and reveals what they don't want you to see: their fear, their need, their chaos. Let this settle in. Your silence will either make them reflect or make them crumble, and both are wins. From this moment forward, stop rushing to fill the space. Don't answer to be understood. Don't react to feel real. Don't perform for approval. Hold. Pause. Let the moment bend to you. The power you're looking for isn't in having the perfect response. It's in mastering your non-response. That's what separates the untouchable from the predictable. So here's the move. Next time someone provokes you, don't bite. Don't blink. Just breathe and let the silence speak for you. Because the stillest one in the room is always the one they watch the most and fear the longest. Stillness isn't peace. It's pressure, and pressure always reveals the cracks. Let them collapse into it, and walk away with everything without lifting a finger. Mic drop.